the cloud. I'm doing good, staying busy. Sometimes stretching myself too thin, as some people say. You
Story
be,
of our lives, right?
right? I don't believe. I find like you got to expand, and then you start wrapping around different structures around your expansion. But if you don't expand because you don't want to be too thin, how are you gonna get to the real money? You can't.
Right. No way around it. Yeah, and expansion can come in many forms, right? So whether you're buying businesses, growing your team, whatever that looks like. I'm actually in a transitioning period right now to where I'll actually be bringing on more agents on the realtor
Really,
side.
I like it.
Yeah, because I have more leads than I can handle.
I like
So, it's a good problem to have. But when that happens, and it's so funny because for whatever reason, people think that things slow down in the wintertime. And, maybe if it was a foot of snow outside and 15 degrees in Chicago, which is not unlikely. However, we have had an unseasonably warm weather lately, which we all are enjoying. I think it's like 60 today. It was 60 on Christmas. So, yeah, people are still moving around, wanting to buy property, look at property. I mean, I've gotten more new clients in the last week, like the week of Christmas than I've had, and probably in the last like month. So,
what changed. How are you getting more clients? How are you getting more leads? What's going on?
you know what? I really think it's the time of year. I mean, I'm not doing anything different. People ask me all the time, and I don't pay for marketing, right? I have friends who pay like $3,000 a month on Zillow and other sites like that for leads. They pay for marketing. And I've never paid for marketing due to my social media. So people ask all the time, how do I get more leads? Or not even how do I get my leads, but how do I grow my following, right? And that's really that shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be how can I drive more business, right? Because the follower count doesn't matter. But I literally just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who is also in the industry. And I was talking to her and I was saying content and consistency. Content and consistency. So I don't care how many followers you have, but are you putting out content that educates people, that makes people want to work with you, that makes people want to reach out to you and ask you questions, content where you can position yourself like a subject matter expert, and are you consistent, right? Are you constantly showing up and showing you are who you are. You are who you say you are, and you do what you say you are doing. So if I'm a realtor, people want to see that I'm closing deals. They want to see I'm at showings. They want to see that I'm working. They want to see, oh, wow, okay, so Rashauna, I literally have had people DM me and say, hey, I'm currently working with a realtor, but I was scrolling through your page and I didn't know that I could use something called down payment assistance, but since I learned that from scrolling on your page, I'd rather work with you. Will you accept me as a new client? So, again, just having that content out there for the people and being consistent and showing up, the leads will come. So I can't say I've done anything different than what I've been doing. I think it's just the time of year. People have time off, right? And the new year is coming, so everybody is ready for the new goals, right? And some people's goals are like, hey, top of the year, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a condo, I want to buy a building, and yeah. So I can't take the credit and say like it's anything that I switched up and did differently, but I can say it's a result of what I've been doing consistently.
Nice. So I'm going to kick off the show so we can officially begin this episode. And I'm going to say this is the Thai Capital Millionaire Podcast, episode 132. Charles Oglesby, co-host for Rashauna Scott. The purpose of this podcast
I made it.
The purpose of the podcast is to share the stories of successful African-American business owners and investors so that people can hear that people that are having success in a media and a world that likes to make you think that we aren't and we don't exist and we're not out here buying homes and starting businesses and running successful businesses. We are. Make sure you leave us a rating or review, preferably a 5-star review. Today is a unique episode because I guess we're going to consider this a 2020 recap or a 2019 recap with the 2020 launch. And so we have a few different topics that I've kind of pulled out that we're going to talk about. Hopefully you guys get some value out of it. I think you will. So yeah, what's going on, Rashauna Scott?
Working, right? Working. Taking time to reset, reflect, looking at the lessons learned this year, right? The partnerships that are going great, the partnerships that are being formed. I've done a lot of speaking engagements this year, and I've traveled a lot this year. And it's so funny because in my earlier interviews, like, let's say maybe like March, April, so let's say, 10 months ago, I think my earlier interviews, I was talking a lot about knowing your worth and showing up and, whether you're in a partnership, whether you're in a relationship, like whatever it is, when people reach out to you and ask for assistance from you or ask for you to show up and speak or whatever the case, when people want to work with you, it's because they see value in you, period, right? So do not downplay yourself. I remember an event that I spoke at earlier this year, someone asked me to come out and support, and I was like, absolutely. Well, first of all, I was like, I'll definitely share it. I'll definitely post it. I'll definitely, I support you in that way. But if you want me to show up, like get on a flight and pay to get there, I was like, I think I actually, you might want to add me to the roster if you want me there. Because, after you do so many events and you do so many things, and I'm talking about this as far as the speaking engagements, but this can be used across the board. Once you realize that, like, your presence is requested, or people are asking for a sit down with you or a conversation with you, again, you are bringing value, and do not forget that. So I was like, again, I'll definitely support and share your event, but if you want me to actually physically be there, I need to be a speaker. I got a call right back, and they were like, you're on, So flight was paid for, travel paid for, everything was paid for, but it was like, I know who I am, I know who I am, and I know, I get paid to speak at events, and travel is paid for and things like that. So it's funny because, like I said, we fast forward to the end of 2019, and one of my recaps, one of my lessons learned from doing all this traveling, doing all this speaking, is like, I do not mind showing up, because I believe, you guys hear me preach all the time, like, show up, because you never know who or what is waiting for you when you get there. So some things are going to be an investment, right? Some things you're going to show up as an attendee, and all expenses won't be paid. But at the end of the day, when people are requesting for you to be there, again, if they're requesting for a meeting or a sit down or even just a phone conversation, go into that knowing your worth. So I can definitely say that I'm still learning and I'm still growing, but in that sense, or in that scenario, I literally got a phone call right back, and they were like, you're on. And it's funny because it makes you think, why didn't you just ask me to be a speaker in the first place? But, yeah. So that was one of my takeaways in that regard. What's one of your takeaways from this year?
I wasn't
one for now.
I wasn't expecting that question. But I think that it's like you said, consistency.
Supposed to be ready, child. Supposed to be ready.
Consistency. And so that's something I didn't really learn until like the end of the year. And that, like, I tell people, if you want your business to generate consistent revenue, you have to be engaged in consistent activities. And so, like, you don't want a business that's going up and down, up and down. We just kind of think that a business is supposed to do that just because of the nature of a business. It doesn't have to be like that, though. And so what I'm finding is, like, one of the things I implemented was just the $50 Friday thing. So doing things every single Friday, knew I could count on something every single Friday. And so I'm looking to kind of incorporate that. For one thing, I was trying to just like market every single day. Because what I'm finding is like, yeah, the real estate is one thing, the barbershop, the vending machines, but there's also the business of me. And so what does the business of me look like? And so that's all the different things I can create. That's all the different coaching and consulting, all these different platforms that I can create that are an expansion of the Tide Capital brand. And I'm trying to do that consistently, and then doing podcasts consistently and doing everything consistently and just kind of creating a system and treating it like, unfortunately, kind of treating it like a job. Like I don't want to like create another job, but if you treat it like a job, like Larry June said, you have to treat it like a job if you want to make some dough. So a lot of us are like, oh, well, I'm an entrepreneur. That means I work when I want, I sleep when I want, I vacation when I want. And yeah, that's cool, but there's a reason why your boss, who's even the business owner, still shows up and works at 9 until 7. And so for me, like I still work a day job at a firm, but I'm always studying the CEO. And so our CEO, this guy is already rich, already wealthy. The business is already huge, but he's always investing in marketing, consistently putting his brand out there, building his brand, creating partnerships, partnering with the Lakers. And so I kind of try to like mirror that. Every time I'm in a job, I mirror their business with my business. So his business name is actually like a call to action. It's like call our firm. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start saying partner with Millie. And so I changed my name to Partner with Millie. I refer to my everything as Partner with Millie. And now people are emailing me and saying, hey, I want to partner with Millie. And it's like what you speak, people start to kind of like adapt to. And so
Right.
that's one thing that I've done. I would say, I mean, I've learned so much this year. I think one of the bigger things is to not be as trusting as I am with people. For me, I tend to kind of want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I'm realizing like in business, especially as your business grows and becomes successful, you have to kind of be paranoid. You have to have certain things in place, certain measures, certain, like, for example, like we just opened up the house to people and said, hey, well, here's the security code and here's what the lockbox code is. I don't know them from Joe. I might as well have given it to a stranger. And so just because they're a contractor doesn't mean that they're not going to get you. And so I think that the contractor that we opened ourselves up to when we kind of, the relationship with Anthony kind of broke down, which we're going to mend, that opened us up to more risk. And so I have to find maybe a lockbox with a revolving code. I can't give them access to the security code. I have to disarm it myself. And doing business with other people, I can't share everything with them, but I can share enough with them. I have to keep some stuff close to the chest because if you're too transparent, people will take your idea and run with it. Doing business with other people, like I can't just bring everybody into the fold because everybody doesn't have your best interest. Everybody's not like, oh, let's all get it together type mentality like I have with a bigger plan in mind, like when we're chasing billions and everybody can make some versus people who are chasing 100,000 and like, nah, this is me. So I would say like it kind of goes to like knowing your value as well, like knowing what I'm worth and knowing that I don't have to allow everybody access to what I'm doing, and then also protecting what I'm building. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, so many lessons there. Going back to, like you said, the partner with me, Millie. It's so funny. I was wondering why you changed your name, but so thanks for breaking that down for us who were wondering. Yeah. But it makes sense. You know, it's almost like teaching people how they should treat you and how they should approach you, especially in business. And then it's almost like you're manifesting something, right? There's some manifestation behind that because what you're putting out is you want people to partner with you. So essentially that is what people see. So, you know, when they read it, when they see it, when they look at your page, which is your social resume, right? They check you out and they're like, oh, this person is solid because they have, you know, 6 posts about financial literacy, which is so funny, but it's so true. Like, and that's a side note there or a sidebar. Like if you don't know by now, like social media is your social resume, right? Like Charles and I do things like almost 100% virtual when it comes to, you know, raising money and working with investors and talking to people and talking to investment groups and things like that, which I'll also talk about my women's group as well. But we do things virtually, but we position ourselves to where we are showing up and, like you said, again, consistently, but our brands are saying, like, this is who we are and this is what we do. So if you look at our pages, like, that's what it says, right? The other thing with manifesting, so I remember I was sharing this story at the women's retreat that I co-hosted earlier this year in Colorado. And I was talking to one of the ladies, and she's like ready to transition out of her job, which is a great paying job, but she's just not fulfilled there. And which I think the majority of us who are entrepreneur driven, we deal with that at some place and point in our career. You know, you're showing up, you might be making good money, but you're missing something, right? You feel like you're doing the same thing day in, day out. And this is obviously not a shot at anyone who has a job, but specifically for those who feel that they have a greater purpose and a bigger calling on their lives outside of just their 9 to 5. And I told her, I was like, listen, you know, my password for probably like, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, at my job when I sat down and logged into my computer was, you know, full-time real estate investor, right? And whatever, right? Like I would switch it up. I would put the year in there. I would put like this year, that year, or whatever. Like the year that I saw myself walking away from my job, like I would manifest that. And literally I would sit down at my computer every single day and log in the morning and remind myself, like that's the goal, right? So you're showing up every single day because this job is paying your bills, and allowing you to get to where you want to be, but you got to start somewhere. So I think it's all about definitely that energy and what you put out there. So putting out Partner with Medley, or putting out, you know, my password being full-time real estate investor. And it was so funny, too, whenever the IT guys needed to get into my computer, and they were like, what's your password? I was like, yeah, I'm getting out of here.
That's funny.
You know, and then when I did quit my full-time job, which I did earlier this year, by the way, all of my colleagues looked at me and they was like, dang, you know, you said you were going to do it and you did it. Wow. You know, and there were so many people who were inspired by that and who looked up to that. And there's people who are still there to this day. And I'm like, yo, I can't believe you're still there. And they're like, I can't either. But they like, I see you doing your thing and all this and that. And you just got to keep going. Like, really, you can't give up. You cannot give up. Like you said, it's about what you do consistently. And it's funny because you also said, you mentioned that we are expecting business to go like this. So we kind of half-ass it when we shouldn't, because here's the thing. Business is going to go like this whether you want to or not. You know, eventually you may get to a point where it's uphill from there. But in the beginning, more than likely it's going to be up and down. So, you know, it's a matter of what you do in those down moments that will eventually create those ups. And then it was one last thing that you said that I wanted to touch on that I can't remember. Hopefully it comes back to me. So,
goals for 2020. How are you setting goals for 2020?
How am I setting goals? So, I'm probably not the best at having a map for goal setting. I just know what I want to do, and I do it. And this is long before 2020 gets here, right? So, for example, in October, like I said, I co-hosted a women's retreat for real estate investors in Colorado, and right when that one ended, or I think right before it ended, we already said, the next one is going to be in March in Miami, right? So right away in October, I knew, I want to say it was right in October, I knew that we were going to do that. And then we also said that we're going to do it twice a year. So March is going to be in Miami. And then later on in the year, not sure where the other city is going to be, but it's going to be the same concept that we're going to keep repeating, but we're going to keep adding pieces, and it's going to keep getting better. So I can't necessarily say, like, okay, the end of the year comes and then I set my goal, right? Like, I set out to do certain things, and then I do what I got to do to accomplish them. So to be honest, I really can't say that. Like, my goals are not contingent upon a date.
Right.
Right. I can't say that they are. I just know that I'm just going to continue to keep striving, continue to put out dope ideas, dope content, and move forward from there. I remember what I was going to say. It came back to me. So the name of the game, because it was something that you said about, like the $50 Friday, and then just keep implementing things, right? So where another place that I've seen my success or like my brand grow and things like that is in being innovative. So I pride myself on doing things that other people are not doing. And I encourage you guys to look for that, right? Look for that within yourself. Look around you, do your market research, whatever industry you're in, what is it that other people aren't doing? So you guys know that I own a brand called Flipping in the Heels, and it highlights women investing in real estate, and it's pretty much like a support group and a community and things like that. But that was created because I didn't see it, right? So I think we talked about this before, Charles, in another episode where we said, like, there's opportunity and missed opportunity. So when you're looking for something and it's not there, how can you be innovative and make it happen, right? How can you bring it to life? Or what are you doing differently, right? $50 Friday, every Friday for the next year. You know, there's 52 weeks in a year. There's 52 Fridays, 52 opportunities to, you know, take advantage of $50 Friday. But who knows, it might go up to $100 Friday. But what the thing that you're doing is now you're training your audience to know that you're going to have sales and discounts on Friday. So if they come to your page on a Monday and they're a brand new follower, but they see you've been doing a $50 Friday, now they can expect and anticipate to, you know, do business with you and purchase with you on Friday because you've marked that as a part of your brand. But again, you know, you're being innovative and trying something different and doing what people aren't doing. So, yeah.
So it's interesting that you said that you don't base your goals on the year. I guess I can kind of say I'm the same way because I already know what I want to do. It just so happens that I've kind of matched that with 2020 and what I want to accomplish throughout 2020. So we've already kind of started maybe working on those goals. For us, it's just really stabilizing every asset that we own. I mean, so the commercial property that we own and then all the single family homes and the multifamily homes that we own. So instead of looking to acquire new doors, it's just like, hey, let's get everything situated. So maybe we have to burr out of some stuff. Maybe we have to actually get construction financing for the commercial space. So that's kind of where we are right now. But it's interesting that you say that, just that you don't really match your goals up with the year. Maybe I've been conditioned to think that I have to think like, oh, 2020, let's get it. For me, 2019.
We all have.
Yeah,
we all
right.
have.
So I was going to ask you, what's your take on resolutions? It sounds like you don't believe in resolutions then.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, the word I think has always been overused. And I think early on I realized that it was some BS. Now, more power to you if that's, you know, how you do it and you rock it out and you need that motivation and you need that push and, you know, and it works, right? So more power to you. But, you know, trying to, whatever it is, right? Whether it's saving money, maybe it's budgeting, maybe it's right. Like the top things, right, are something about around money and budgeting and saving, health and food, and, you know, probably spiritual, right? Like I'm gonna be going to church more in the new year, you know. But shout out to Auntie Aisha, right, who I was actually reading a post of hers this morning, and she was saying something about like time is irrelevant. Right? Like, it's a matter of if you're going to change your life, if you're going to make a decision to change your life, then change your life today, right? Like, why do you have to wait until the calendar year switches over? And I think those with an abundance mindset, we understand, and with a wealth mindset, we understand that, you know, time waits for no one. And if you're going to go after your goals aggressively, you need to start putting in an action to do that now, today, right? The other thing that I want to say that a friend of mine instilled into me this year that I try to remind myself of constantly is you must learn to be disciplined, right? So again, investing, saving, eating better, your spiritual life, your relationships, whatever, you must learn to be disciplined because you will not always be motivated. So I was like, you know, if that ain't a word, I don't know what is, because it's the truth, right? And working out and changing your lifestyle and doing some things, you must be disciplined. And again, where in that does it say anything about, you know, oh yeah, but you should start January 1, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that the word consistent and resolution and starting on January 1 have nothing to do with each other. So if we're saying consistency is key, you should be being consistent now. You shouldn't say, okay, well, on this day, I'm going to start fresh with something I've never done before, and it's going to work out. The stats just don't
Right.
support it working out. So the message here is that F your resolutions, F your 2020 goals, get started now. I mean, we're actually
Right.
kind of already now, but it's like I've realized that it's like it just doesn't work. And so the goal is to get success. And so if we're getting success, we have to aim at what works. And we started out the conversation with just being consistent and doing something over and over and over and over and over again with intention. And that's how you get to where you want to be, not doing something that we already know is going to fail you on February 1. So,
Right. Or January 3, right?
right.
But I believe also, I do also believe in, you guys hear me talk about like manifestation, right? So I believe in that, and a part of that is vision boards, right? So I can't say I've done a vision board every single year, but I have seen my vision boards improve. Like I think I'm finally going to post my 2019 vision board, and I didn't do it because, like I said, it's so funny because as you grow over the years, and for me, because I've probably been doing them maybe since, I don't know, 2015 or 14 or 13, but again, off and on, right? So I did it one year, didn't do it another year, did it one year, and kind of like didn't finish it, started it, and whatever. But in 2019, I was very intentional about what I wanted to be on my vision board and what I wanted to manifest, so much so that it's a completely full vision board. And then when I sit and look at it, it's almost kind of creepy because I'm like, whoa. So I took a picture of it because I'll post it. I'll definitely post it so you guys can go to my page and see it. But so, for example, I have Forbes 30 under 30 on my vision board, not knowing that I would get invited, have a completely free ticket to go to Forbes 30 under 30 in Detroit. So my intention, my idea was actually being inducted, right? So I put it on there. But
You still have time though,
Yeah, no, I still got time. But it's, I mean, and there are a few, there's like a section on here where I have quote unquote accolades, right? So things that I would want to accomplish. So like I said, Forbes 30 under 30, or being on the Bigger Pockets podcast, right? So I have that on there. But what's funny is that I was not on the Bigger Pockets podcast, but I did get a retweet from Brandon, and I was asked to co-host the Top Millionaire podcast. So, which, by the way, I think this is better. But it's so funny that, again, I just look back at it and I look at the things that I put on my vision board. Like I have, of course, I have some things on here about real estate. I have some things about increasing my income, which that happened. I have my car on here, which I bought. I have a heel on here for flipping in heels, which, I was able to do more with expanding that community for women investors. And so it's just so funny because I was more intentional about putting on here what I wanted to put. Like I have little sections. I have like a faith and family. I have a healthy lifestyle. I have, like I said, accolades. I have one for work. I have a spiritual one. I have one for real estate. I have one for personal goals and business goals. And then I have just quotes about like being a leader and being a woman in business and just things like that. And I remember doing it at the beginning of the year, and I was at like a vision board party, and at the end of the party, everybody presents their vision board. And I remember I was literally, like when I was presenting, it was crazy because I remember just feeling so full and energized when I was sharing my vision, but it's because I put so much thought into it and not knowing like the energy that I was sending out, that I was putting out into the universe. And then here, 12 months later, at the end of the year, I'm looking at the vision board and I'm very pleased with where I am, what I accomplished. Like I put on here something about like being featured in Essence, which didn't happen, but I connected with some really great people at Essence, so I have them like in my Rolodex and things like that. And just, like I said, just doing it and putting it out there and just having that positive and abundance mindset and going for what you want to go for regardless. So it's funny because even though that I did this vision board, I had it, I didn't have it up where I could see it every day, but I was moving some things around and I came across it and I looked and I was like, oh man, okay, so I did this, and this, and then I put it up and I was like, wow, okay, so these things are powerful. So, and I'm not preaching saying that everybody needs to go out and do a vision board, but again, it goes with just knowing who you are, knowing where you are and where you want to go and where you want to be, and you need to put it out there. You know,
right.
whether you need to put it out there and be crazy enough to believe that you can go and get it, right? And think about that you can go and get it. You know, so funny, I also have one here, girls trip. I had no idea at the beginning of the year that I was going to plan co-host a women's retreat in Colorado for women real estate investors. No, it wasn't even on my radar, but I have a girls trip on here.
So I believe vision boards work, and it's like the Bible says, without a vision, the people perish. And so I think that what's cool is, like, you remind me a lot of my mom. My mom is the person who kind of introduced me to vision boards, and from there I've kind of started doing them. And I think that it's just important to have something to aim at. So many people, they're aiming at nothing, and they're hitting it, and they think that they've like accomplished something, or they're aiming at nothing or accomplishing nothing, and then they're wondering why their life doesn't look like they want it to look. And so I think that it's just dope that you kind of outline that. And then you also can look back and you can just start checking it off. Like, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that. And so you're taking steps towards getting there. So it's like you might not have accomplished everything, but you're a lot closer now than you were at the beginning of the year. So I think that's really cool. Where are you finding the material? Because one of the things for me is like finding like all the material to put together that vision board. You just buying a bunch of magazines? Are you, what are you doing for that?
So what's so funny is that I think a lot of this came from last year. So like I said, I've been off and on BSing with vision boards. So last year I was supposed to do one. I had the board, and some of the things I actually went to the internet and printed out and cut it. Like the Forbes 30 under 30, I cut out. The bigger pockets, I cut out. I printed out. Like I went and I got that idea from my cousin. And so I had all this stuff printed out in like a little baggie, in a Ziploc baggie, because I was supposed to go back to my cousin's house and finish it, but we never did. So then I think that's also what contributed to my board being so full for 2019. But I like that idea because, like you said, how often are we flipping through the magazine and we don't see what we want? We don't see what fits to us. So that when we're sitting down for those 3 or 4 hours, like, it's really not a productive time because you're looking for what fits you instead of just going and getting it, right? Like, you already know you want to buy 5 doors in 2020. Go and print off a picture of a multi-unit building, right? Or a single family house or whatever the case. Maybe you might not find that in the magazine, but you can do that. So a lot of that did come from there. And then when I actually sat down and started flipping through the magazines, I was able to fill in those gaps. And so, like I said, my vision board is actually in sections. Like, literally the top left is, like I said, it's like personal and business goals, and it talks about money. The bottom talks about accolades. The top talks about faith. The right talks about health and wellness and family, and like I said, the girls trip. And so when I did it in section, and I was able to, like, when I look at it, like, if you look at it, it looks like a bunch of posts and, things like that everywhere. But I look at it and I know the sections and I know what they mean and I know how it flows. So, so it was a combination of actually typing it in, printing it out, cutting it out, and then finding some other things from a magazine that filled in the gaps. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the idea because what I started doing is I would actually go and like type up my own quotes and then print out my own quotes. And so instead of like going through the magazine and trying to find if they had a good quote in there, I just created my own quotes from books that I like. So I took a lot of Rich Dad Poor Dad quotes, a lot of Grant Cardone quotes, and I started to kind of put those on my thing. What I have now is this dope little, where is this thing? So I have this right now, which is cool because it allows me to like write everything in there. I can't tell you everything that's on there, but you could probably see it. But one of the most important things is the downtown LA development, which is right here. And so that's what I'm aiming for. So hopefully we can make that happen this year.
That's cool. Is that your vision board?
I guess you could call it that, but it's kind of like my goal list right now. My vision board, you have
Okay.
to have the pictures and all that stuff together. I have a lot of old vision boards that I haven't really. I have a lot of old vision boards. I need to create a new one for this year. I didn't do one last year. I'll do one this year. One of the things that I was just listening to on the Bigger Pockets podcast is they were talking about how when you have like a significant other, sharing your goals with them. And so what happens is, like, if they see you talking about something for the longest time, then when it pops up that you actually want to do it, they're not kind of like, what the heck are you talking about? Where did this whole like buying a boat thing come from? But if you kind of like break down why you want the boat and they understand like the purpose of that boat, then when you pop up with the boat idea, they're not like out of left field. So a really good episode from Bigger Pockets this week about goal setting with your spouse, just goal setting in general. What else is there to talk about? I want to talk about where you see opportunity in 2020.
So,
and it could be the same thing that you've seen in 2019 because you know how you are. Like, I don't believe.
Well, I was gonna say before I get off of that. So, the purpose, and I would say, so the message here is write it down. You know, I don't care if it's in the journal. I don't care if it's on a huge whiteboard. I don't care if it's on a paper board, a plastic, vision board, but write it down and see it so you can, again, believe it and manifest it, right? Pray over your goals, pray over your family, pray over your spouse, and just believe that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to, and it will. But again, I tell people also when it comes to like branding, right? Out of sight, out of mind. So if I don't see you like posting and sharing and whatever the case, then I'm going to even forget you even exist, right? Especially if you're in another state. So it's the same with your goals.
The crazy thing about Instagram these days is I'm finding that if you aren't posting on Instagram stories, people aren't even really checking for you. Like, stories get more views than actual Instagram posts in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that goes back to that whole consistency and things like that. But like I said, out of sight, out of mind. So if you aren't showing that you are who you say you are, and that you're showing up and doing what you say you're going to do, like I almost start off every speech that I've given lately like about that, right? Because when I stand up and I'm talking about raising private capital and how I do that and how I've been able to do so from strangers, people I've never even met, and how, they see what I do on social media and all of a sudden they feel like they can trust me, is because I'm showing up consistently. So I tell people all the time, if you're sitting in this room today and you have not posted on social media yet, then shame on you, right? Because you need to show that you're showing up to these events, right? This is your continuing education. Like, you are investing your time here. That should count for something. Like, people need to see that you're doing what you say you're doing. But I don't want to get so much on social media as I want to get back to the point of your goals. It's the same way, out of sight, out of mind, right? So if you don't write it down, if you aren't looking at it, if you don't see it, or even if you just don't put it out there, then you're probably going to forget about it, and you're going to get caught up in all the other things in life that'll happen, because they will happen, right? You're gonna catch a flat tire. Your account might go into the negative in 2020, right? You might have a death in the family. You might have a new baby in the family, right? Like there's so many things that are going to happen in life, because that's life in general. But the thing that you don't want to do is lose sight of your goals.
So one of the things that Grant Cardone talks about is writing down your goals every day. And I think that kind of speaks to the whole out of sight, out of mind thing. It also speaks to getting the goals out of your mind and getting it on paper, which engages multiple senses, which then kind of locks it into your brain even further, which then allows you to kind of focus on where you want to go in life. Another thing he talks about is just taking those goals and 10xing them. And that's why the goals you see on this here are so big. It's like 100 million net worth. I'm not aiming for 10 million. I'm aiming for 100 million. We have 200 doors, not 20 doors. Because typically what happens when you expand your goals and you 10x them, you're going to land on about 10%, 20% of what you were aiming for. And that 10% or 20% is actually pretty good, because if you were to say, I want a 10 million net worth, you likely end up with a $1 million net worth. You're likely end up with just getting 20 doors, or even less. If you're aiming for 20 doors or 10 doors, you'll probably end up with like 2 or 3. So I like to take my goals and just blow them up so big and then take massive action towards those goals. So people will say, like, you post so much on social media, you tweet so much, you do so much activity, you're expanding so much. It's because the goals, when you set your goals that big, then it's like how much activity you're going to take to get towards the big goals, because activity is going to dictate whether you're going to get to your goals. For you, getting on the plane is activity. For you, posting where you are is activity. I think people have to grasp that too, because it's not just about setting the goals. Like, what are you going to do every single day consistently to get towards that goal? I was at one point in time writing one blog per day, and it could be tough writing one blog per day, but it's necessary and expands your brand. And you look up and now you got a book, and I can package these blogs and turning it into a book, or doing a podcast. Now we look back, it's like, damn, like Charm City Buyers was like episode, or who, I was looking at somebody, it was like Doug Dept. He was episode 113. And it seems like it was just yesterday. Now we're at like one episode 132, because we just keep going and keep churning and keep pushing stuff out there. And so it's activity that's going to dictate your success. It's activity that's going to build your brand. And that's why I do so much, because we're building a brand. We're building a portfolio, we're building this whole suite of products. The same thing is true with products and courses. Like, just keep churning out different things. What can I talk about now for an hour, package it together, and then sell it to the community? What can I do now that I can, like, so now I'm like, damn, I got an options course, I got an LLC course, I got a long distance real estate course, I got this. And the goal now that I've been doing $50 Fridays is I need more products now. So I got to create even more products. So what am I going to do now? I don't know. Managing rehab, long distance, doing all these different things and breaking stuff out, property management, long distance. And so we can do that, and we're adding value to the community, because, I mean, $50 for what we're giving you, or even the actual retail price for what we're giving you, there's actually a lot of value in that. So I always tell people, what Grant Cardone tells people is that in a lot of ways, not charging people is a disadvantage to them, because when people pay, they pay attention, as certain people say. So Millie 2020.
The other thing too, let's talk about the new flex.
Oh yeah, I like that. Because Julian Gordon, he's a beast, man. If you guys ever listened to that episode, check it out. Also check out a lot of the stuff he's putting out there. He's also speaking at the Black Men Building Wealth Conference, but he acquired 25 doors, and that's not even everything he owns. He acquired 25 doors just in like 2019, I think.
When I saw that post, I was inspired. That's why, I reposted it, I shared it. Like, when I see stuff, and going into that, right? Like, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you believe in bettering yourself. You believe you believe in that. And so I don't think I need to tell you about how important it is to just only follow people who inspire and motivate you, right? Like, if it's one thing you change in 2020, unfollow all the nonsense and the gossip, okay?
And the bad bees.
I
said even the bad bees and bikinis. There's a lot of that on Instagram.
Yeah, all of that. Unfollow was not gonna make you money too. So
or gonna cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, but when I saw that post, I was inspired, because I was like, man, okay, all right, and it was a little flex in that, right? Like, and it's okay to brag about the amazing things you're doing, right? I think sometimes we get confused with, people being boastful and bragging, and, as if it's a bad thing. But when you are bragging on something that is going to change your family's lives forever, right? You're building generational wealth. That's the new flex, right? Like, I don't care about, what diamonds or whatever you bought for Christmas or whatever you bought earlier this year, what liability you bought. The new flex is wealth building. So when I saw that post and it was like, I bought 25 doors in 2019, I was inspired, and that's why I shared it. And then it immediately made me think about, okay, well, what is my end of the year post for 2020 is going to look like, like getting inspired by that. Like, I already know that I do want to buy more doors in 2020. That's already been, I guess you can say, a goal of mine. But again, just seeing that definitely inspired me.
It's a testament to how fast you can blow up, because, I mean, he only owned 5 doors before 2019. In 2019, he just got hungry and he's made it happen. And what's also cool is the market that he did it in. He's buying homes in New Orleans, and he's not from New Orleans. He lives in New Orleans now. he's still engaged in the house hacking process. But if you listen to his story, the way he was able to do it is that first deal. He house hacked that first deal, which then allowed him to have rent and mortgage freedom. So now all his working income goes towards scaling his empire. So now you have equity. Now you have cash in the bank. Now you have rental income coming in. And so a lot of people, it's like you can't get that dream home first. You got to house hack something. And it's uncomfortable, especially when you're bougie, like Rashauna is and my wife is. And it's like, but it sets you up to really live bougie. We were talking about that on the podcast. It's like people want to buy their dream home, not realizing that their dream home might be that multifamily, because that's going to allow you to accomplish your dreams. So what are your dreams? Is your dream debt? Is your dream a liability? Is your dream having to go to work to pay a mortgage? Or is your dream freedom? To me, my dream is not having to deal with the boss who's going to, like the book says, alternate between compliments and insults. My dream is to not have to beg somebody for time off, so where I feel guilty for taking the day after Christmas off of work or the day before Christmas off of work. That's the dream. The dream is what you can get to in real estate by providing opportunities for other people. And that's what a lot of real estate is, especially from a rental place. It's like we get paid for making sure somebody else has electricity, making sure somebody else has plumbing, making sure somebody else has a roof over their head. And that's what we get paid. We don't just get paid passive income. There's work that comes with it, but it's very rewarding because the backside looks like freedom and it looks like your dream. And then you look up and you're doing what Doug Depp is, where they were out in Bali for, I lost count how many days they're in Bali. That's the dream. And he got there through real estate. He got there through sleeping through a basement. So he said the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. So you got to hustle, you got to grind, but it's out there.
Yeah, and I think you got to ask yourself, what does the dream end, right? Where does it stop, or what happens once you accomplish your dream, right? Because if you are thinking of like, oh, this is the dream is to, buy my dream home now. Well, like you said, okay, you buy your dream home now, then what? What happens, right? Are you still in debt? Are you still, working a job that you hate? Are you still, what are you sacrificing now to buy that dream home, to where it's like, maybe if the dream home is, like you said, financial freedom and getting out of debt and finally, getting out of the rat race, then that dream can be delayed, right? And delayed doesn't mean denied. Like, it just means that you are, going through those short-term sacrifices for those long-term gains. So if your dream is, like I said, owning that penthouse downtown, and maybe you can't afford it now. And that's the thing too, right? Like affordability. What does that really look like? Is affordability, oh, my bills now can pay for that? Or is affordability, I need an asset that's going to pay for that, right? Or I need several assets that are going to pay for that. I remember I was watching a podcast or I was watching a video on Instagram, and he said, raise your level of broke, right? Like, what is your minimum of broke? Like, is it $100 in the bank? Is it $1,000 in the bank? Is it $10,000 in the bank? Where is your level of broke to where you start panicking if your bank account goes below that, right? So for some people, as long as they're on the plus side, even if it's $5, they're like, whoo, okay. At least I'm not in the negative. Like, no, that's absolutely terrible. That is, and we laugh, but for some people, that is their reality, real talk, right? But I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at my bank account, but this was probably a couple weeks ago, and I had a decent amount, but I was like, man, this don't seem like a lot of money. But it's because I know the goals that I want to get to and what I'm reaching for, and I know the cost that goes along with that. So, it was definitely, it wasn't a low amount of money, but I was just looking at it like, I got to keep working. I got to keep hustling. I got to keep grinding, because there's a cost that goes along with those dreams, right? But again, raising your level of broke to where you aren't comfortable, because now, granted, I'm sure I have, more in the bank than probably any of my family members, right? Or so to the average person or to somebody, like, I'm probably doing well off. And it's like, no, yes, I make decent money, but I got decent sized bills too. And I got even bigger goals. So, raising, when I heard that, I was like, man, okay, that's deep, right? Because if you're like, man, if I got less than $15,000 or $20,000 in the bank. And it's more than just a number, right? But it's what that number can afford you and what it can provide for you. And knowing, again, where you are, where you're going, what you want to do, and where you want to be. If you know that, you, depending on what market you're in, you want to buy 5 or 10 doors next year, and you know how much that's going to cost you, because you know what that 20% down payment is going to look like. And let's say you only have that in the bank, you're like, that's not enough. Mm-hmm. It's not enough, So you gotta keep hustling, keep working, keep growing, keep expanding, and stay dedicated.
So you said something that I like, and it's something I said on Twitter before, and it was like, you don't really buy that high rise. You buy the building, and the building buys the high rise. And so people will say like, oh, Charles, like, I think you're expanding too fast. I think you're doing too much. It's like, well, my exposure has brought me to places where I see what I want. And I realize like I'm only going to get there if I have assets to pay for it. When you look at how much these things cost, and then you look at like how much jobs are going to pay you, you realize like the only way you can get there is by having assets to pay for it. So the only way you can get there is by creating those businesses or starting or buying more property that cash flows. And so that's my focus, because that's what I've been exposed to. And so it's very important to make sure that you're being exposed to the right things. And then you can't have a conversation with somebody who hasn't been exposed to what you've been exposed to and expect them to see what you see. And so for you, your money goals probably changed because you just hang around a bunch of millionaires. And so now it's like, hey, this is cool, but I have been around people with big, big bread, and that's just what my exposure is. That's what my goals are now. And so that's very important. I always talk about that, like being in the right circles, being around the right people, and going to those events helps you do that. So you're not over here trying to convince people who just can't really even understand. Like they haven't read the books, they haven't been to the different programs, and you're like kind of the one-eye man trying to lead the blind. Sometimes you just got to just go hang around other people with one eye as opposed to just hanging around the blind people.
Yeah, and if you haven't hung out around a bunch of millionaires, they like to spend money. Yeah. So yes, definitely it will open your eyes and encourage you to go and get it even harder. Because once you, and here's the thing about making money, right? And it's so funny and it's so interesting because I feel like it's not talked about in our communities enough. Because money usually triggers a sore spot, right, when we talk about it in our communities, because it's always the reminder of the lack of money instead of the abundance of money. It's always, a reminder of, who doesn't have what, or who can't afford what, or who can't afford, it's about presents for the holidays and things like that. So I definitely challenge you guys to have those conversations more, right? Get comfortable with having that conversation because, we already know, it's not, having money isn't the root of all evil, it's the love of money. But what I will say is that when you start making money and you start making business moves and you start making power plays, every single wealthy or rich person that I know, they make money and then the goal and the idea is to make more, like, period. And like it doesn't stop, right? There's a reason why, Elon Musk is still working, right? Now, he's not doing the type of work that we do, but he's working in a different capacity, right? Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, like they're still working, right? And it's to, again, grow their assets, grow their portfolio, for whatever reason that might be, to leave more for their family, to create a bigger legacy, to give more of it away, right, to charity, like whatever the reason may be, and then also positioning yourself to understand that money is never made or lost, it's simply transferred, right? So what type of energy are you putting into making sure that the amount of money that you want transferred to you gets transferred to you, right? So it's about you putting in the work and directing the flow of money your way. And that's going to come outside of a job, right? Because you show up, you go to work, you get your check, that's it. There's nothing you can say or do about it, right? You don't go to work, you don't get paid. You go to work, you get paid. That's the end of, you go to work all year and you do really good, you might get a bonus. But when you create a business and now you can control the direction and the flow in which money flows to you, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Have you taken any courses this year that helped you out, or any programs, conferences that you took something away from that was powerful?
No.
What? I support it though.
No.
I support it.
Now, my earlier years, I took a lot of courses and, all of that, but no, I didn't. What I did do this year was I created my women's community. So
Yes.
I launched Infinity, which is an online women's group for women real estate investors. And I'm so grateful. I'm really fulfilled with what's happening in the group. It's like I said, it's a community for women. We have our calls every first and third Tuesday in the evening. So, we're no makeup. We're bonnets on. We're, in there talking, having a conversation as women, talking about the challenges, talking about what's working, what's not, just being transparent with our wins and our failures. And I'm just really grateful for what's being created in that group, because, again, I realized that there wasn't anything like this when I was getting started, when I was going to the workshops and the seminars and the conferences and showing up and looking for that support. So, yeah, I did launch a program.
Took the innovative approach and created what you wanted to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've been able to profit from it. So, again, creating what you don't see, and then you're able to, you turn it into a business. And now it's become another stream of revenue. And then it was like the easiest money I've made. I'm not going to lie. I was like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me all I had to do was do this? And, of course, it's not for the money, but, of course, I need to be compensated for my time and, the experts that I bring on and and things like that. But being able to show up, like, the women have all gotten their money's worth, and they still have 8 months left to go, right? So I don't think there's an issue with charging when you know your worth, but also when you under promise and like that over deliver. Like, people don't mind paying for it. Like, you go to McDonald's and you pay $3 for a cheeseburger and you get your cheeseburger and then you're satisfied with that cheeseburger. But if you pay $20 for a cheeseburger and you had that same $3 cheeseburger, you might not be satisfied because you're like, I didn't get my money's worth. But if you got your money's worth, or if you're providing people, where they get their money's worth, there's absolutely nothing wrong with charging the prices that you want to charge. But yeah, I will say it's some of the easiest money that I've made.
Yes. I love that you said creation, because wealth comes through creation. I would like to challenge people to do more creating this year, less copying, less competing.
Come on. That part.
and innovating, because the world needs what you have in your mind. So take it and manifest it and make it tangible. Why did you choose the name Infinity?
So, it's funny you ask. Are you asking because you really don't know, or you just want the people to hear it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
If it's personal, you don't have to share it if it's too personal, though.
No. I'll share it. So I chose the word infinity, and it's funny because I remember I was actually debating on if it should be men or women or just Black women or like what, like all of that is important when you are solidifying your brand, right? Because what you put out, the world will resonate that with you. But I wanted, and of course I have both men and women following me on my page, but I wanted to grow more of Flipping and Heels. Flipping and Heels was created to be a community, but when I got transparent with myself and I looked at it, I said, where is the community, right? Like, the community for me had to be more than just an Instagram page. It had to be more than where people came to get inspiration. So I said, where is the community? So I was like, okay, create the community and do it for women. The name Infinity came because it's funny you asked, like, have I taken any courses this year? What I learned was that I'm not really a course type person. I'm the type of person that will buy a course and not finish it and so that's another reason why I hadn't bought courses this year, because I've done that, been there, done that. I've bought courses. Let's say it's a 6 or 8 week course, right? And you got to be on there live every single week. Well, my life is so crazy and chaotic that things pop up, right? So I might miss the first week, or I might miss the second week, and then I feel like I'm all behind and I can't get caught up. So I didn't want to create something that had a beginning, middle, and end. I wanted to create something that was ongoing, because I think that's my best learning style. I show up and I jump right in, and I learn right in the trenches of where I am, right? Like, there's some women who, started at the very beginning, but guess what? They can, if they haven't been, even if they haven't been on since the first episode, which we did, the first session, which we did in October, if they get on now, let's say they have a break around the holiday season, they can binge watch, which most people are doing. It's so I love it. But people are telling me like, oh my God, I signed up yesterday and I binge watched like all the sessions, right? But you can catch up and you can feel like you're there, and you can apply it to where you are right now. So that was the reason for the name, because I wanted to create something that was ongoing, because I do believe that wealth building should be an ongoing conversation. That's why you have the podcast. That's why you post consistently. That's why you do your courses, because it's an ongoing conversation. It's something that, we've been left out of the conversation for so long. So we need to continue to educate and learn, and again, get in where you fit in, wherever you are in your business, whatever you need from this group right now, get on and get that information. So the topics are different. We switch it up. It's not just about wholesaling. It's not just about flipping, just about raising money. We talk about it all, and I bring on different experts who are an expert specifically in that specific thing. Because another thing too, I think people look at real estate investing too broad. It's way too broad, the way people look at it. Like, oh, I want to be a real estate investor. Well, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to flip houses? Do you want to wholesale? Do you want to buy and hold? Do you want to buy auctions? Do you want to do tax lien investing? Do you want to do pre-foreclosures? Do you want to do probate? Do you want to do, whatever, right? Like, what do you want? Do you want to be a private investor? What exactly do you want to do in this realm of real estate investing? And so I think when you figure that out, you can deep dive into that. But if you just Google real estate investment, it's going to be way too many things that come up. But when you can tap into your specific niche, then you can deep dive into that and find your success in there. And the great thing about it is that if it doesn't work out, you can move on to something different, right? Like, I've flipped properties this year. I'm transitioning more into buy and holding. That, for me, that was always the goal, to flip and make profits and move that into buy and hold, larger properties. Because here in my market in Chicago, your 20% down payment can easily be, 20, 40, 50, 60 grand. So to answer the long story, that's the reason that I named it Infinity.
I like it. It was a very thoughtful answer, but it also kind of speaks to being creative, and that you saw what didn't work for you, and so you created something that did work for you, which will likely work for people, and obviously has, given the response that you've gotten and the people that you have that are signing up their wives to participate as well, which is really cool.
Yes. I was like, hey guys, this is what we're talking about today. Like, literally just like that. I don't have a curriculum. I don't have this. It is a support group, but you're going to get what I have to give you. You're going to get, like, I've had attorneys on, I've had top wholesalers on, I've had, just all these different people with this amazing knowledge, and, you can ask questions and we can walk through deals and give each other resources and information. Like, I will be on a call and somebody will ask a question and someone else will chime in and give the answer. Like, that's what it's about, creating that sense of community, so we can just show up and support each other.
And that was another thing I wanted to touch on, is just that community aspect. We live in an era where Instagram, and I've had this experience, Twitter can pull your followers, it can close that account. And so it is important to create some sort of a community somewhere where you contain your following, So whether it's an email list, whether it's a group chat, whether it's whatever you have to take that following and create it to a source that you own. So that's one of the things I'm working on. That's one of the things that Tide Capital is. And hearing you talk about that, I was like, man, I need to really make sure I ramp up that this year, or ramp up that now and not this year. But because I was really big on that, but you don't want Instagram to own you, because we always talk about skipping the middleman, ownership and all that stuff. And we have created these brands and these followings through social media. But if Instagram controls what people can see, when they can see it, how it comes across, if they can see it at all, you are you're kind of playing with fire. And so you got to take that, you got to create your own community, whether it's a free one, whether it's a paid one, something. You got to get that data for yourself. Otherwise, I mean, you could be put out of business just by putting up the wrong post, like what happened with me on Twitter. And I still get a lot of followers and retweets through Twitter, but it's not like what it was when I had like 10,000 plus followers on Twitter. So to kind of close it out, I'm gonna ask some kind of like fun questions, but what was your favorite music album or music find of 2019?
You know, that's funny. I am a music person, but I'm not like a modern music person. I'm very much so like a neo soul 90s R&B type of person. But so I can't tell you what the latest like rap and hip hop albums and stuff like that. But you know, I've really rocked a lot of her this year. A lot of her. I mean, probably all of her albums, which I think she might have like 3 or 4 out. Because she kind of reminds me of that neo soul 90s R&B vibe. So that I really, and I hate that I missed her. She came to Chicago last year and sold out. I was like, dang. And this was before, you know, I thought people were still sleeping on her. Guess not. So yeah. So her. What about you?
So I'm a big Her fan as well. I got a chance to see her.
You be listening to some of everybody though. You be
I
listening
do.
to Nipsey.
I'm like, it's crazy. I listen to jazz.
Hardcore gangster rap.
Right. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. But I got a chance to see her at Coachella. I saw her at Camp Flog Gnaw. But I would say maybe my favorite music find might be Larry June. I listen to a specific type of rap. And even when I am listening to like thug rap, I still kind of find that gem on ownership or real estate or businesses or investing. But maybe Larry June, because Larry June is kind of like Currency. Everybody knows I like Currency. But I like Currency because he's an independent rapper, which means he's a businessman. And Larry Jones, he's independent as well. A lot of his raps are about credit, eating right, being healthy, and it's all over like a smooth beat. What else? That Summer Walker album is banging. I was not expecting that to be as good of an album as it is. I always tell people that like Summer Walker and her producer are like together. And I think that helps you create great music when you're working together with somebody that you're together with. And we see that with in real estate. We also see it in music. So for me, I would probably say Larry June, just finding his music. It's great. And it talks about the stuff I like to listen to.
I remember reading something literally, I think like yesterday, and it was like creators do not fall in love with non-creatives. Save yourself, right? Because if you are a creator, your whole existing is to create, right? And when you are with someone who cannot create, cannot see, they do not have clairvoyance, they you know, they're always negative about everything, you know, you aren't going to be able to fully grow and spread your wings because you don't have that support. So yes, definitely that is important, especially in business.
Being creative is the hack, and I'll tell you why it's a hack. People don't like Kanye, but they love his creations. And I always tell people that business is important because it allows people to buy what you produce, not buying you. So somebody might not like you, but they might like your shoes. They might like your music. They might like that house you built. And that's why wealth comes through creation, because it's like you can sell what you create thousands, hundreds, millions of times, and that's going to create you money. So being creative is the hack. Being competitive makes you a hack. What was your favorite book this year?
Um, so my girlfriend Christina Spells got me. She gifted me with a book called Boss Women Pray, and it is a devotional that has different prayers in it every single day. I have to get you the artist name on it. But what I love about it specifically is that it's prayers for people, leaders and women in business. So it's so awesome because there's so many things that are in there that talk to your every single day struggle. So, whether you're struggling with creativity, like there's a prayer in there about being creative. Whether you're struggling with feeling like a failure today, like in your business, there's a prayer in there for that. So it goes through the different emotions of being a leader and being a woman in business, and having different devotions that target those specific things. So I'll definitely get you guys the artist so Charles can add it to the show notes, but it's a great gift for someone, or it's a great book to get for yourself. They have a Boss Women Pray, they have a Boss Men Pray, and then they also have, she has a Boss Kids Pray. So it can definitely be one for every single person in your family. But again, I really like it because it speaks directly to the challenges. It's a devotional that I found myself laughing. I found myself sad. I found myself like really relating as if I wrote it. She was talking directly to me. So I love that book, and it's really helped. So what about you?
So I read a lot of books this year. Also listened to a lot of books this year. A lot of memoirs. The book on David Goggins, Andre Iguodala, Dapper Dan. The Bird book was one of my favorites. The Rick Ross book was okay. But my favorite book for 2019 was Black Fortunes. And the reason why I like that book is because it gives you like the real. And I always talk about how like we've accomplished like pretty much anything that people say we can't do, there's actually somebody out there who's already accomplished it. And so this story actually kind of breaks down the real. It gives you the real of Black wealth in America. So it talks about how Madam C.J. Walker actually wasn't the first Black female millionaire. But that's something we get told so often. And you see it perpetuated on Instagram so often. It also talks about the realities of what happened with the burning down of Black Wall Street. It also talks about Black Wall Street not being the only successful African-American community in the nation. And then it also talks about one of my favorite new Black millionaires, which is Robert Church. And what he did is he invests exactly how I invest. And so seeing somebody successfully go through it was like, wow, like I'm on the right track. He ended up being like a legend. O.W. Gurley ended up being like a legend. So I think that it should be required reading. There's a list of books that I'm making that's required reading. I don't know if I'm going to have my son read all those books. I'm not sure when I'll have him read those books, but Wealth Choice, Think and Grow Rich, or Black Choice, Black Fortunes.
How many books on there?
How many books are in where? Oh, on that list?
Yeah.
I'm going down the list right now. I'm trying to figure it out. Why should white guys have all the fun? Black Titan, the story of HR, the story of A.G. Gaston, the story of H.R. Russell, which is building Atlanta. Maybe like 10, 15 books on there. I got to like really outline it. Of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's on there, that whole series.
Right.
But yeah, I would say Black Fortunes was my book of the year. Read it if you haven't already read it. Don't take that little weirdo picture on the front. It makes it look like the book's going to be boring, but it's actually very engaging. And if you listen to the audiobook, the audio is actually pretty engaging. Sometimes it can be dry or really unique to listen to, but that was good.
How are you going to get him to read it if he doesn't want to?
Well, my wife will probably say he doesn't have to read it if he doesn't want to. So I don't know. I have no idea. We'll cross that bridge.
So,
I
think you should reward him.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know, give him money or something like that, like an allowance, right? Like make it a chore. Yeah. I mean, you might get lucky and he might enjoy reading, but just from my experience, most kids don't like reading. But the great thing about it is, I mean, I can literally see that being a book down the line, right? Like my dad paid me every summer to, you know, read at least 3 to 5 books, and I had to write a book report. But what that happened was it set me up for later years, because of course kids are not gonna understand and know the value, you know, when they're younger. But I love the idea. I love the list of must reads. But you know, we also, you know, got to think about how are we gonna instill these principles into our kids when they may not want it.
Well, see, my thing is, I just don't want him to be too, I don't know how to say it the politically correct, but I don't want to be like too blackety black, like, oh, black power, we hate white people. I just want him to be like a good dude. And so like Rich Dad Poor Dad, absolutely you have to read that book. But for me, I read a lot of these books because I get into so many arguments with people on the internet who say it's not possible, we can't do it, we broke, we poor, ain't never gonna have nothing. And so I read it because it helps me kind of like, I mean, because I've seen black people with money my whole life. So for me, my experience and my exposure is different than a lot of people who might not live where you see just random black dudes driving around 8 Series in downtown LA or in Chicago where they have money, or in Atlanta where they have money. Like, that's my reality. And so, like, for me, I had to, like, you debate so many random people in the comments or in the Twitter comments or the Twitter mentions. So for me, it's like, I want him to have the knowledge of Rich Dad Poor Dad in that whole series and maybe some Warren Buffett stuff. So I think I'll probably encourage him to go that way, because a lot of that stuff isn't black. It's not black versus white. It's just assets versus liabilities. I want him to kind of like think that way. If he has to start reading that book because some idiots out here tell him what's not possible, then boom, here you go. I got a whole library for you. But yeah.
There you go.
What was your favorite podcast of the year? Favorite podcast, and it can even be
this one. Come on now, is that a trick question? This is my favorite podcast of the year. I learned a lot. I've been inspired by all of the guests that have come on. You know, like you said, the reason why the podcast was created was to share successful stories of African Americans, to show that they exist. So it's so important to, like you said, the last part of that right there is the most important piece, is to show that they exist. Because like you said, exposure, right? What your reality is and what your norm is may not be every single other black person in the country. In fact, we know it's not. So to show that, hey, there are people that look like you, who have come from where you come from, who grew up just like you. You know, we all have a different story. We all have a different upbringing. But to show that there is someone who you can relate to, who made it happen, you know, that is inspiration for so many people. So it's important, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
So I think we can wrap it up. My favorite podcast is the Chi Capital Millionaire podcast. And I'm kind of like, I like listen to other people's podcasts depending on the guest that's on there. So I listen to that Earn Your Leisure podcast with the real estate developer. I listen to their live podcast.
You listen to a lot of bigger pockets.
A ton of bigger pockets. Me and Bigger Pockets are like BFFs.
Cool.
I listen to a lot of bigger pockets. What do you have going on that you want to promote and share with the people, and where can they follow you?
So I'm at Rashauna Scott. As you guys know, I'm Rashauna Scott everywhere, and you can also find me on Instagram at Flipping in the Heels. Like I said, my women's group Infinity is growing. I want to say we're at maybe like 40 members. So that is growing, and
that's dope.
That is, yeah, it's been a beautiful thing to watch. So if you are a woman investing in real estate, or looking to learn, or looking for that community, definitely come over and join us. The price is going up in the new year. And or if you are a male listening out and you know someone, you know, who can use it, you should definitely share that with them. I think that's the only thing that I have that's actually going on to promote. Other than that, you know, I'm just working, staying focused, improving these systems. Like I said, expanding the team. Definitely working on systems, better systems to run the business to make things more efficient. Learning that, we're in a customer service industry, all right, and follow-up is the name of the game. That's one of the number one thing that Black businesses, people complain about is customer service. So working on growing that and improving that. So lots of work to do, but it's always, just about getting better.
Nice.
What about you? What are you promoting? $50 Friday?
Well, what am I promoting? I don't even really know. Oh, what I'm promoting is the Black Men Building Wealth Conference, February 29th. It's going to be an all-day event. We have Julian Gordon. We have Xavier Miller. We have Chris Senegal. We have Andre Hatchett. We have a lot of really, really good speakers. So looking forward to that. You can find the tickets at the link in the bio. It's going to be hosted on Eventbrite, or you can also go to oglesbyholdings.com/ or oglesbyholdings.co/ Black Men Building Wealth Conference. That's pretty much the biggest thing that I'm promoting right now. Of course, you can join the investment club for real estate or stocks. Also, the investment club for ventures through the links that are going to be in the show notes and in the bio. Yeah, that's it.
Good stuff. Well, Happy New Year.
Likewise, it's going down. So, Charles Oglesby with Rashauna Scott, episode 132, signing off.
We'll see you in 2020.